All right. Hey, everybody. Hope you all are having an amazing start to your week. This is Michael Goldberg, and thanks for joining the LinkedIn Live Lunch Hour with Michael Goldberg. Each Tuesday at this time, we dive into topics related to talent acquisition, talent management, job seeker development, and job seeker tips, and then HR related topics. So today, I am so lucky and so happy to have my friend Jan Watson Barlow. I'm going to hyphenate your name, Jan, if you don't mind.
No.
Founder and CEO of Better Job Fit. She is one of my amazing coaches, and we are each other's cheerleader when it comes to growing our businesses. And I'm just so super excited to have her on. So, Jan, welcome very
Well, thank
much.
you. Thank you,
We're
Michael.
so happy. Absolutely. So today, Jan and I are talking about how to take your career to the next level, and she's going to talk about that. But before we begin that conversation, Jan, tell us briefly about your background, and then also what Better Job Fit is and what you do.
Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate this time together with you and with your audience.
Sure.
I started my transition 10 years ago. I used to work for Alcon Laboratories and went through a merger and acquisition after that and worked for Abbott Laboratories for a short time. What's so amazing is I created my position at Alcon, was at the height of my career, and merger acquisition happened, was hired from our biggest competitor, and just continued that, if you would, that high ride for a couple of months. And then they switched managers on me, and then talk about bad managerial fit. And the whole job scope changed, my duties changed, and it ended up that, unfortunately, that led to me getting sick. I mean, the stress of a bad match, and having my job changed, being micromanaged, that whole bad experience, I literally transitioned from there. That whole legal action ensued. So, needless to say, that's when I said, well, I might as well just create my own next and create my own consulting business. So, I took on my clients that I had in ophthalmology and pretty much did my own gig. And really, the experience that I had with that bad managerial fit and bad fit with my new position, um, really led me to create Better Job Fit. I had gotten sick, and literally it transformed my life. So, really, out of a disaster or a bad experience, created my own business and my passion to help people uh, really work in their strength and create their new, exciting, extraordinary transition.
That's amazing. So basically, I'm dealing with the echo issue again, and don't see that volume control. So just to make sure everybody can hear me, we have Jan Watson Barlow on the phone or on LinkedIn Live, and today we're talking about, how to take your career to the next level. So, Jan, I know that everybody could hear you. I hope they could hear you. So, yeah. So basically, let's start with the questions here, right? Um, what encouraged you to jump into coaching and the consulting side after working many years on the corporate business development side? And you were so
Well,
good at it.
thank you, Michael. I was helping ophthalmologists in the refractive end, so laser vision correction. So
Hmm.
how I just mirrored what I was doing for Alcon. So you have doctors that treat sick people, but they want to get into the elective surgery business. So people are considered patients, but they're not sick. So you really have, and they're paying out of pocket. There's no insurance, right, involved. So they're paying $4,000 or $5,000 out of pocket, and that's before patient financing ever happened. So you have, what I dealt with is, you have doctors that have what's called patient counselors. And even though the duties are the same when you are counseling LASIK patients, the client or the patient is different. So and it's just like how employers think, well, you're doing the same job, but it's a different end user. So they'll get confused with the job versus the end user. So I saw, I mean, at an early stage, I saw the difference and really went around the country and was able to share how does a doctor in New England run a practice, a LASIK practice with 3 employees or 3 staff members and make so much money versus a doctor that has 5 staff members and is making 1/4 of that income. So I was able to really help doctors bridge the gap. We called it um, pathology versus retail, because that's really what it was, and putting the right person in the job. So your patient counselor for cataract patients did not really fit the job of a patient counselor for a LASIK patient. So that's really how I started. Um, I just took that model that I created working for corporate America and really took it on my own.
That's amazing. So when it comes to sitting down with your clients who are individuals and I believe companies as well, right?
Yes, correct.
So who are the best clients for you? In other words, where have you been the most successful? Where are they in their career? What level? Are they a manager, director, VP, executive, C-suite? Kind of give us a good example there.
It's really higher. First of all, the individuals are at a higher level of awareness. So it doesn't matter whether they're 30 somethings that have quit their job and said, Jan, I don't know what I want to do next. Like, I got to figure that out. Like, I know that I'm, tired of what I'm doing or I'm not happy. But I need to figure out what to do next or create my next. To executives that have been in maybe a VP position, CEO position, and they say, okay, I'm getting ready to retire, or I'm looking to transition out. I want to start my own business. A lot of people, especially starting their own business, they think they need to play every role in their business, and that's not the case. So I've worked with people that are transitioning from corporate America to starting their own business and figuring out what role to play. So it's a broad spectrum, but the commonality is that the people or the clients that I work with are at a higher level of awareness. They're in touch with, they know that the traditional career search or um, so-called looking for a job, it doesn't work. And so they know something needs to be done differently. And really, all my clients are referral clients. So they either know somebody, a previous client, or they know about me through a speaking engagement or somebody like you that has referred.
No doubt. So, and feel free to ask Jan or myself questions in the comments. Be sure to hit those thumbs up, celebratory, the green clapping hands, the hearts because you love us. Is it insightful, the light bulb, or the purple person who's got his hand on his chin and it's curious? So feel free to comment in the comments. If you're listening on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, feel free to go to LinkedIn and ask their questions. So that's where I'm monitoring those questions. And also, for those of you listening, feel free to share this with your communities out there. So, again, this is Jan Barlow, and she is talking to us about how to take our career to the next level, especially for those job seekers or people contemplating the next move and they want to make a career change. So, tell those who are watching this and if they're debating some type of major career change, what does next stand for, and what is usually that aha moment for them after they work for you?
Well, I got the NEXT. It was one of my really favorite sayings. When something's not working, you just say next. You create a psychological disruptor and have to discipline your disappointment and say, okay, I've tried. Next, move on. So then it hit me. because I work with people in transition, doesn't matter what the details of that transition are. It hit me: new, exciting, extraordinary transition. So it's creating that excitement, but at the same time, always using that next, as we always say, next, right? So
Yeah. And it's an acronym, right?
yeah, it's an acronym. It started out just by being a psychological disruptor. When somebody is starts to share their story and they get caught up in the negative emotion of, gosh, what am I going to do? They're wringing their hands. And we just say, okay, next. You gave it the college try, let's move on. And then it downloaded, to make it an acronym: new, exciting, extraordinary transition. And it's about creating your next.
Absolutely. What about that aha moment?
Thank you for asking about that. That aha moment, usually when I'm talking to my clients, about, like, how did they get to me? How did they, you know, find me? What brought them to this stage to want to do something different? That's aha moment, is that they've tried a lot of different things, and they tried the stereotypical career search methods out there, and they're not getting the feedback. They're not getting any activity. They're not getting seeing any progress. Um, it's and as you and I have spoken about, Michael, we have some friends of ours that are in VP of HR. Um, I had 3 clients last quarter that were from HR. When they see, when they're on the other side of looking for a position, they comment about, man, I can't believe I'm ghosted, or gosh, how come I'm not getting feedback, right? So they're prompted to do something different when they see that there's no feedback, or they're not getting any um, direction or guidance. They feel floundering. They feel like they're just not moving forward. So they reach out because they know that I can meet with people on a short period of time and get results. So I know that was one comment that you shared with me, that it was about, wow, 6 months versus 3 or 4 sessions. We're getting down to the meat of something and moving forward quickly. So that's what I
Well,
like to brag about.
yeah, what I really liked is when I decided to embark on the journey with Jan, is I you asked me at the end of 4 weeks, what is it that you want to do? And to me, that was crucial because it's always so important to start with the end in mind.
Yes,
And I really appreciated that when we sat down, because it really kind of helped us set up the next 3 weeks of getting to that goal. And I don't mind sharing my story and my journey with you. I know, and we can talk about that. We took these the PXT select individual graph and the multiple positions report, and this really this is given to all your clients that you work with, right?
correct. And anybody that we do, like, I do collaborations with other facilitators for, like, behavior diversity workshops. Everybody that I work with that collaborates with Better Job Fit takes one of those. So it's not just for clients, but it's for our partners as well.
Absolutely. So what is that? What do these reports help them figure out? Like, give them
Okay,
some insight to that, because I think it's important. People go, "Oh, it's just another
yeah,
personality test,"
right,
and
right.
that's not what it is.
No, it's definitely not. When I worked with the doctors, that was the biggest thing: is when you're working with physicians, it has to be science based and it has to be objective, right? So they would ask me, well, Jan, how do you know? They wanted to see science of, how do I know, backup of, how do I know that Mary Sue, who's their sister in law for 25 years, who's been a patient counselor for cataract patients, why she's not a good fit for the LASIK counselor position. So I went on, really, I had to become the expert of assessments and psychometric tools. So I had to really do a deep dive Not all assessments, I mean, there's only two categories of assessments. You have your interest, quote unquote, interest surveys, which are like DISC and Myers Briggs. And then you have true, what's called a normative assessment. That's true in job matching. And so a lot of companies, and it's actually illegal, though it's it's not even in the company labeling. You're not supposed to use Myers Briggs or DISC. They're not made or designed for job matching. So when I started using the tools to help nonprofits, veterans, and foster care alumni, as we know, veterans, how do you take a gunny sergeant and put them in a private sector job? Like, how do you translate that? what what I used for the doctors was I found a normative assessment tool that is used for job matching. And then I could create, with this specific tool, create a custom job match pattern. So for the companies, so a salesperson in one company is not the same job duties as a salesperson in another company. So a lot, and we're still, as you well know, we still live in that 16th century Newtonian mindset that if you were a top salesperson in one company and you get hired for the competitor, and just like in my position, when you change my job and put me in harm's way, and don't put me in my strengths, I now am not the I'm not the living, I'm not the top person anymore. And then they actually, companies will blame the employee. Well, it's not the employee's fault. Um, so I had to create, I found this one particular assessment after going through tons of them, learning, understanding which ones, are used best for what. But job matching was important, being able to customize that tool. When I used it for veterans and foster care alumni, what's so cool is I had a foster care alumni. He was in his senior year of high school, and he was a 95% match to a graphic designer and correctional officer. Well, job matching has nothing to do with your age, your race, sex, grades, what college you went to. Harvard Business Review, this was 15, 20 years ago, stated job matching has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with cognitive behavior and occupational interest match. So for my foster care alumni, the young man was a 95% match to a graphic designer and correctional officer. His grandmother, he had lived in 12 to 14 homes before he was 16. And he finally was placed with his grandmother. And she said, well, Jan, he only gets C's in school. So that has nothing to do with it. The only question I have for you is this: do you want him to go to work wearing khakis and a dress shirt, being an aesthetically pleasing environment with colleagues, or do you want him to go to work in a jumpsuit, wearing a gun, being around prisoners? That's really the only question, because he's a 95% match to both. And how I use it with clients is really to look at that. Takes the 95% that we don't know about match, it gives us that objective viewpoint. So just, if I may share with when we work together, it's being able to look at those different matches and say, how do we fit that in your business, in the role that you play in your business? You've got to stay in your lane, right? It's like for me, when I started my consulting business, I used that information to say, okay, well, I already know, I don't like numbers. I'm a 4 on numeric ability, but I'm a 6 on numeric reasoning. So when it comes to putting numbers together or formulas, that's not my lane. But when somebody hands me a business prospectus, I have a couple of uh, venture capital firms that I work with. They hand me a prospectus. So numbers that it's a report that has numbers that tells a story. I can read that like nobody's business. But to put that prospectus together, that's not my lane. I stay in
Yeah.
my lane,
I mean,
right?
I mean,
It's not
in the
about the
position,
shame. It's
no,
losing the
that's right.
shame game. Losing the shame game.
What's great about this, the fit report versus the position, I was, if I could do some self promotion, I never thought I was good at sales. I don't feel like I'm a good or great salesperson when it comes to my own self promotion. Yet I could be a loan officer, I could be sales and financial services, I could be a major gifts officer, a chief strategist. Funny enough, recruiter was at
Believe it or
93%,
not.
believe it or not. But what I appreciated in what you told me was that I was very good, according to the report, and honestly, how I feel that I'm very good at investigating, I'm very good at research, directing and teaching and training. And I think, kind of segueing to the next question, I think there's some definite connections in how HR and recruiting can look at this as either a talent acquisition or a talent management tool, right? Once the person is in the organization. Um, but, you and I talked yesterday about, or was it Friday, about, you know, finding, for us not to be so black and white and to look at the gray's okay and look for those skills. Of course, you got to use these assessments to say what this person's potential is versus seeing on a resume, that he or she doesn't have, let's say it's a technology position. They don't have technology skills or they don't have sales skills, but yet they score high in a 93, 94, 95% fit range for a sales type or a technology type role. So, how do we change the mindset
I got
for
to tell
those
you, yeah,
HR
that
and recruiting people listening?
that's a very big question because there's a there's a job security mindset, right? The company that I work with, that it's Wiley and Sons that actually bought the Profiles business. So Profiles International was the one to create the assessment. So they sell it to HR professionals. Um, a lot of partners that y- your regular recruiters or HR people or staff, in a general HR generalist role will look at that assessment and literally will feel threatened by it because it's they think it's taken their role away. Um, from a fearless position, it is an objective tool that it's holistic. And when I first found it in 2009, that's how I have always believed, and that's how I use it. It is a holistic tool to keep people out of harm's way. Okay, so thinking of me from my experience, which led me to find this, I wanted to make sure that I helped people stay out of harm's way, right? So changing a mindset of HR. I mean, Michael, as you and I have shared, Harvard Business Review back in 2015, uh, that summer uh, magazine cover says it's time to blow up HR. I mean, are you
Right.
kidding me? I mean, so it's needs to change, but you're going to see people kicking and fighting. So usually it's the the people that use this tool or that are open understand that they have got to change. It's the mindset. You're 5% of, and our dear friend Eddie, being a VP of HR, he even said, he goes, how can a person, a recruiter or an HR person tell me that I'm not qualified for a position? Right, that 5% of what they think they know. And if especially sales, if you have somebody that's interviewing first tier of a sales position and they're a 2 on sociability, or 2 on assertiveness, and they will experience a resistance gap with people that are so-called have the 7 successful sales traits, they'll rate them lower on the initial survey of recruiting and put them at the bottom of the list. I've seen it. I've seen it with the city of Fort Worth. I mean, that disconnect from a person that the head of the Economic Development Council wanted for a so-called sales or business development position was put at the bottom of the list because somebody in HR who doesn't have who literally doesn't have the 7 successful sales traits, right, to recognize, scored that person lower than somebody that wasn't a good fit. So I think you have to be open. You have to be open to understand you need objective. We can't be objective as human beings. We can't. It's impossible. It's called the self-perception theory. We can't. So until people start um, seeing these scientific or using the correct tools, Michael, not a Myers-Briggs, not a DISC, that's not used for job
or
matching.
Wonderlic
Oh my
or
God, please.
predictive
Oh
index.
my gosh, yeah. See, I mean, we got to start using the right tools. I mean, this piece, when we talk about succession management, I mean, I can create, and I have created job match patterns for an entire company. And when we go and run every employee against all those job matches, we already know who's a good match and who's not, right? We already have a
Yeah.
succession plan.
Yeah, and I think it's real important. It's interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine who works for Alex Partners. He's the head of the retail practice, you know, and we were talking about what they do in their process to hire people. And it's almost like they do. I don't think that they use this tool, uh, but I think when it comes to developing your candidate personas, this tool is going to help you, right? But for a consulting firm to have all of their data points lined up, like Alex Partners, knowing that they're going to go find the right people and that they hire the right people most every time, that's unheard of in this industry. And I think, I'd like, if people are watching this now or on the replay, you need to tag tag an HR leader on on the broadcast or in the comments, even if you're watching it on the replay. They should be listening to this. Tag a director of talent acquisition or a VP of talent acquisition or a VP of talent management, because we're still making, and whether it's hiring managers are making those decisions, which they should be, they need more objective data
Yeah.
like this to help them. You know, but the other half of that equation is getting recruiters and recruiting leaders to be consultants to these hiring managers, saying, look, the proof's in the data, right? We're all about data this, data that, but nobody knows how to use the data. Do you
Right.
know how many data points I got out of both the individual and the position graph? There's so many data points, and the way you could go into HR organizations and help them figure things out, the opportunities are endless,
Well,
right?
and Michael, I had a colleague of mine from that went through the boot camp when we had to learn about this particular assessment. He was a recruiter, and so he wanted to and believe it or not, right, this was right after 2008 crash, so this was 2009, and he's like, Jan, I really, I came here because I want to increase my business. So, and I told him, I said, dude, you got to use this tool with companies, and you need to take your top two candidates and put them through the assessment. You create the job match pattern for each of those companies and say, hey, let me just find two candidates for you, and I'll be able to show you how they match to this your particular position. In 6 weeks he called me back, and he ended up getting 5 new corporate clients by it. So I know that it works. It's just interesting to find and open up that dialogue with with individuals in HR. Most of the time, the individuals that I work with at the company, they're either a VP of sales or the CEO. So those people who are directly affected by poor performance or underperformers, they're the ones that are being affected, whether it's their commission, whether it's the numbers of the company, especially if you're a infancy to go company looking for an IPO or looking to be acquired by another company. You have to increase your sales. You have to put the right people in the right position, because as you and I spoke about, Michael, when you're in that go stage, people wear many hats, right? Well, I don't mind wearing many hats if they fit me, right? I mean,
Right.
it's not about wearing a lot of hats, it's about wearing the hats that fit you, right? So that's really what it comes down to.
Absolutely. So again, we're gonna be on for about 15 more minutes. So feel free to ask questions. Um, we do have a comment from my new friend Arco Serrati. I believe he's in France. He says most people think I'm overqualified for an HR job. Most people feel I know more than them, so there's that feel threatened.
Yes.
Hiring is an art. Hiring, sourcing, and staffing with forecasting and stuff uh, is an art. And I feel people don't understand me here. Oh, he's in India, in the India market, where he spent loads of his time in his work. Any suggestions for Arco?
I have to share with you, as I have, shared with clients, if you're getting some doors closed, it means the people that you're speaking with or interacting with aren't at your level of awareness. So you need to kick it up a notch, right? It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. You just need to get together or start making connections with higher level of people in the industry or in an organization, right? um, Michael, as I remember when I saw, there's a network for your business, right? For who really needs your help was the tech industry, right? They just have no clue, especially the startup companies that are in go stage, infancy and go stage. So I connected you to a networking group, Tech DFW, and I would advise that person to start reaching out to networking events that attract that higher level of CEOs, VPs that have that mindset. What do you think, Michael?
Absolutely. And so, you know, with what Arcot is talking about, you do have to shape your message and you have to have a target audience to experiment with. And I think you also need to verify what what you're selling with the friends that you have around you, saying, "Hey, talk to me about is my message clear and the skills I'm delivering is does what I'm saying make sense?" Uh, and I think going to new groups, another one you turned me on to was Text Exchange. And that was the first networking meeting that didn't have a single HR
Mm-mm.
or recruiting person in there. And it was literally the best networking event I've attended in a long time. No disrespect to my HR and recruiting peeps, but it put me a room with venture capital, private equity, accelerator people, and I've started to build relationships with them. Am I going to get business out of them? I don't know. It doesn't matter because I've established a presence with them and I've just opened another portal, if you will, for me to push through and succeed.
Well, and that was we looked at that group. Again, it's based on who you are specifically, right, and what your strengths are, and knowing that that industry needs help in finding the right people for the bus. Their profile as an industry, low on sociability, right? It's not the sales piece. They're the total opposite of sales.
Right.
So they need help with finding good salespeople, right? And but also you bridge the gap between that. So that was a market for you because it was customized based on your results.
Well, and I think you also have to adjust, play to your audience, right? So I'm not going to walk into a tech firm and be all hyper like I normally am and be very animated. They're fairly introverted people,
Right, right,
right?
exactly.
So you've got to really play to your audience. Um, so I think that's also a part of it, is to know your audience, know you're talking. He did reply with a further comment. He says, I did that for all the CEOs and vice presidents and stuff, HR and variety of recruitment companies. Hope something kicks in. My advice is to keep plugging away.
Yes.
When an opportunity doesn't pan out for me or for Jan or for any entrepreneur or a job seeker trying to get a job, doesn't mean no. It means finish it, Jan.
Not yet.
Not
No
yet.
just means not yet. And
No.
when we spoke about um, your expectations, right? So you can say, all right, I'm going to go to this event or I'm going to host this event or whatever, and I got a lead and nothing happened to it. Well, okay. So instead of saying it didn't work, really step back and look at what did work, right? Well, you got a lot of people that showed up, right? You're an influencer, they showed up. Um, you got people talking. I mean, after your event, Michael, you had people still talking about your book giveaway, right? So that was
Mm-hmm.
something innovative and unique. That was people still talking about you
And they
after
wanted
the
to
event.
do it on a quarterly basis.
See, I mean, one small event and now people want to come back and have you host something on a quarterly basis. So from a really a repeat business, that is phenomenal. I mean, that is unheard of. When people were saying, gosh, we'd like you to do this again, and we'd show up, I mean, that is unbelievable. That is a home run. You had a couple of people, right, say, hey, I got a lead for you. I mean, the whole point of those events, you either going to an event, hosting an event, it's like advertising. It's supposed to make the phone ring, right? It's supposed to get people to talk to you. It has nothing to do with closing a sale. It's just to generate conversation and generate interest. So I would share with our listener and everyone, keep at it, right? Just keep on keeping on and then acknowledge what worked, right? Focus on what worked.
Absolutely. So, coming in for a landing here. So, you shared a lot of great information. And what would be the number one thing that you would tell those considering a career or job change, or for those who think they're ready to move up in an organization? What would you tell them?
I would tell them think differently, right? And think differently about your strategy and how you're going to create your next. It's about betting on the 95% that you don't know. It's when people say, well, I'm trying to find a job, well, please do not say that because the definition of the word find literally means to happen upon by chance. So really, when that would be the first advice. Stop talking about trying to find a job, right? It's about creating your next, but also be open to see yourself differently. You need to really invest in yourself to be able to see yourself differently, right? That's really the
Absolutely.
biggest piece that I would say is invest in yourself so you can really have an objective viewpoint of the 95% of what you don't know, because we got this pre-programming that goes in our little story that we tell everybody about ourselves or to us about us, and it's not true. There's 95% of what you don't know about yourself, right?
A terrible ego.
Yes, it's there to save us and to help us, but we're not going off any cliffs anytime soon.
Well, and when you're in business for yourself, you're an entrepreneur, your ego can get inside your head,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
and it's a major mind, you
Yeah.
know what?
Yeah. And monkey chatter, right? It's all monkey
Monkey,
chatter.
definitely, definitely. All right, rapid fire question time. You ready?
Okay. Yeah, I'm
Your
ready.
favorite food?
All.
Really?
Yeah. Everything but ooh, no. I really just don't like anchovies.
Love anchovies. Love anchovies, especially on a pizza or a
Oh my
Caesar
god.
salad. It's the
Yeah.
best.
I mean, yeah.
All right. Favorite vacation
Marfa,
spot?
Texas.
Marfa, Texas.
Yes.
If you all haven't been to Marfa,
I'm telling
you're
you,
missing out. It's one
you
of the
are.
best places to stargaze. It's
That
one of
and
the
also
darkest spots in the world
got
to
some
watch stars.
hip artists and hip chefs there. So,
And you are hip. All right. Best book you ever read?
oh, uh, Robert Scheinfeld, whose grandfather started Manpower. He's got two books, Busting Loose from the Money Game and Busting Loose from the Business Game.
Very good.
Awesome. Very awesome.
Favorite movie?
Pretty Woman.
Good one. Favorite quote?
Oh, wait a minute. Favorite quote. That wasn't, I didn't see that. Favorite quote.
I
Oh
said
my
it
God. I got to tell you, favorite quote. Uh, I'm just going to say my own.
which is
Create your next.
create your next. Very good. Last one. What impact do you want to make on the career seeker HR recruiting industry in 2020?
Um, well, there's two aspects. The individual, from an individual career um, person creating their next, would be to think differently about themselves and their opportunities, right? So it's a big thing of thinking differently, looking into that 95% of what you don't know, being open to that. And then our behavior diversity for companies, behavior diversity workshops that I'm currently expanding with Tarrant County College. So really looking beyond that external diversity and deference over difference, respect over difference, and that would be our biggest from a corporate standpoint is our behavior diversity workshops.
Empathy versus sympathy.
Yes,
I
and
like to say that one
and
too.
that's it's huge. It's a huge shift, transformational from an individual standpoint, right? Respecting yourself and respecting others.
Well, Jan, it has been a pleasure. I've
My pleasure.
enjoyed having you on.
Thank you.
And how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about their next opportunity?
Please reach out to me at jwatson at betterjobfit.com. You can text me. My cell number 817-617-0524. Let me know that you were on, you were listening, and we'll schedule a call and see how I can help you really help you create your next, or really if just some pearls of wisdom. Some people just like to call and get vent and be able to feel better afterwards. So I'm open to that as well.
You're an advisor, you're a friend, and I heart you very much.
Thank you, my
You're
friend.
welcome. You're welcome. So join us next Tuesday, 11 a.m. Central, with my guest, Aaron Matthew, as we talk candidate engagement. This is going to be a great conversation. Uh, so thanks for tuning in. Be sure to leave thoughts and comments below. We'll respond to those watching on the replay over the next 24 hours. Be sure to share this. Be sure to tag recruiting HR people or even tag your CEO. That's a good one, right?
I love
He
it.
or she should be listening to this, right?
Thank you, Michael. Absolutely.
All right. Well, Jan, thanks again. It's been a pleasure, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.